We're literally redefining everything we do as a staff, as a group. So, you know, literally everything, every formation, every route, every run, you know, every route concept. How can we make this offense, which up until this point has been good, we're trying to make it as great as we can be.
Greg Roman, the new offensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens, talking about the changes that will be made now that Lamar Jackson is the clear-cut starting quarterback. Comments via podcast on the Ravens website. So, look, you've got 5 guys. We were talking about this earlier. 5 guys who were drafted in round 1 last year. They've all passed the eyeball test for now. That doesn't mean they're all destined to become Pro Bowlers. That doesn't mean they're all destined to win Super Bowls. I mean, that's the thing. As these great young quarterbacks proliferate through the NFL, you're still going to have good teams and bad teams. You could have 32 quarterbacks say, these guys all look great. They can get it done. They can do everything. There's still going to be people losing these games. And you're going to have guys who end up being quarterbacks of losing teams. So as we move forward with the 5 guys who were taken in round 1 last year, what can we expect? And I want to start with Lamar Jackson. He was the last guy taken in round 1. The Ravens were thrilled to get him. The big concern there is, can he develop as a passer? Will he develop as a passer, and will he become anything close to the weapon that he was at Louisville? We were talking about this yesterday. He was actually better the year after he won the Heisman. Just the rest of his team wasn't good enough to put him in that upper echelon of Heisman consideration. But this guy was special at the college level. How much of that is going to translate, and how much of it will apply when, look, you have an advantage. It's almost like when Bill Belichick first started running the 3-4, re-embraced it. I remember the 3-4 was in vogue in the 70s, and Belichick kind of brought it back in a big way 15, 20 years ago. It confounds quarterbacks who aren't used to seeing it. Peyton Manning used to have a hell of a time with the 3-4. The more you see it, the easier it gets. So this Ravens run-based offense with Lamar Jackson at quarterback, it's so different than what you usually see, it's hard to deal with. But the more you see it, the easier it's going to get. And look at what the Chargers did. They played the Ravens in late December, play them again in January in the wild card round, and the Chargers went into Baltimore and handled the Lamar Jackson offense. So, you know, he's going to need some weapons. He needs something in the running game. I saw somebody suggest maybe Mark Ingram will sign with the Baltimore Ravens. Heck, maybe Le'Veon Bell could end up with the Baltimore Ravens by the time it's all said and done. But you need to give him some weapons in the passing game, and you need to hope that number 1, he can develop as a passer, number 2, he can stay healthy. That's my primary concern for Lamar Jackson, because if you're going to run the ball that much, I don't care who you are, if you are going to be taking hits, if you're going to be running the ball, you got to avoid taking hits. You got to take hits in a smart way when you do take them. That's the one thing about Russell Wilson. He instinctively knows how to position his body so he doesn't get blown up when he gets hit. And Lamar Jackson's going to need to avoid those big hits so he can play as long as he can. And also, I think the Ravens are going to seriously consider having RG3 around as the backup. That, you know, if you're going to have a run-based offense with a quarterback who is mobile, then you have a backup who is essentially that same guy and not a guy who's a traditional pocket passer. All right, Baker Mayfield in Cleveland. This one fascinates me, Stats, because Freddie Kitchens did a great job as offensive coordinator. Well, now he's not the offensive coordinator. He's the head coach. So how much of that's going to translate? How much of that's going to carry over? And how much can Baker Mayfield take a leap in year 2? We all expect it to happen. I mean, we went from having kind of no expectations, and this is a curiosity, and let's see what Baker Mayfield does, to saying, oh, wow, this guy's great. How's he going to respond after an offseason of being the, oh, man, this guy's great young quarterback who's going to be, and think about this, when that schedule comes out, Tony Grossi was on earlier this week talking about it, primetime games. Is Baker Mayfield going to be able to get it done in primetime, Stats, or is he going to be another Kirk Cousins? Sorry.
That's mean. What do you think is more important, Baker getting a full offseason with Freddie Kitchens or a full offseason away from Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley?
Well, look, I think to the extent that this is working with Freddie Kitchens and wasn't working with the dysfunction that was there previously, and Hugh didn't really believe in Baker Mayfield, wanted to have Tyrod Taylor as the starting quarterback all year long. Tyrod Taylor, another one who's going to be available at a lot less than $25 million a year for a team that otherwise could be considering Nick Foles. Should have mentioned him last segment. But regardless, Mayfield now clearly the guy, and Kitchens and company in position to spend that full offseason offseason program, training camp, preseason, getting Baker Mayfield ready. We've made that point before with other quarterbacks, that a guy who gets thrust into it 3 games into the season and wasn't the starter every step of the way, now he gets a chance to be the starter every step of the way. There's a good chance he'll be even better. Sam Darnold in New York, I think he's going to be what we saw at the end of the regular season last year when he developed into a much better quarterback than he was early on. I think Adam Gase is going to get more out of him, and there's a lot of speculation that maybe Le'Veon Bell, maybe Antonio Brown, maybe there's going to be some weapons there that will help Sam Darnold improve, and I think that makes for a potentially interesting situation in an AFC East where somebody eventually is going to step up and challenge the Patriots. It has to happen at some point. They can't have a hammerlock on the division for the next 100 years. Josh Allen's also in that division as the Buffalo Bills quarterback, and I thought he was surprisingly good. The thing that shocked me about him, his willingness to put his head down and run the football. Now, he got banged up in the pocket, not while running, but he's a dual threat. And he's got that rocket arm. And I think the Bills were better than expected last year because they kind of, it felt like they were moving in the right direction, but then they tore it all down, and now they're building it back up. And I think Josh Allen could be good. And the last one, Josh Rosen. He's the one. Who knows with Josh Rosen, right? They're trying to circle the wagons in Arizona. They're trying to make it look like they're not interested in Kyler Murray. They have to say that, even if they are interested in Kyler Murray. But Rosen is the guy who I think has the least around him and is going to make it the hardest for him in that division with the Seahawks, with the Rams, with the 49ers, if they can keep their key players healthy. Rosen may be a guy who could be a very good quarterback, but it may just not be in the cards for him to get. I didn't mean that.
In the cards?
I did not mean that. Believe me, I didn't mean it.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.